Gareth Bale was loaned out to Spurs after he'd fallen out of favor at Real Madrid, as Tottenham agreed to pay half his wages for a world-class talent and just some good vibes. He started off slow though, recovering from a previous injury, and then it was later revealed that Jose actually didn't like Bale that much for a system that needed wingers to help on defense. But eventually Bale's class just came through and he became undroppable in the second half of the season, showing flashes of that best in the world ability and being an extremely efficient goal scorer. This didn't get him back into the Real Madrid squad though, as according to the press, he just mostly played some golf and was really just saving himself for Wales during his last year in Spain. And after a short time in the MLS where he famously didn't do anything until scoring the 128th minute cup final equalizer, Bale retired in 2023 as one of the greatest players of his generation. Sergio Reguilon also came in from Real Madrid for around £26 million, as Spurs basically only had Ben Davies at left back at the time. Reguilon was extremely in demand, but we were able to get him as we agreed to include a buyback clause in the deal, and in the beginning of his time at Spurs, it looked like that clause was 100% going to be exercised in the future. He started off so well for us, looking like he was going to become an elite level left back, but after some injury issues, breaking Jose's heart over a piece of ham, and then Mourinho getting sacked, Reguilon fell out of the rotation under Antonio Conte. So after his great first two seasons in London, Reguilon was essentially forgotten, spending time on loan at Atletico, Man United, and Brentford, and he played well again for the Bees, but it wasn't anything too crazy, and therefore he only ever made 6 more appearances for Spurs, then got released in 2025, and as of now he's just chilling in Miami, pretty far from what he could have been. Steven Bergwijn was also signed for 26 mil as an exciting young winger who would provide depth in attack after we'd sold Christian Eriksen to Inter. He wasn't a direct replacement, but we did not care at first, as he scored that beautiful debut volley to help us beat Man City 2-0 and was just a good spark plug in his first half season for us. But while he did give me one of my best football memories ever when he sent Leicester into the shadow realm with a stoppage time brace to turn a loss into a win, overall his time in London was not very productive. So after 2 seasons at the club, we sold him to Ajax for 31 million, where he again started off very well with 8 goals in his first 7 games, but after that his form kind of dipped down to just a solid level. And he was the captain of this Ajax side that was severely underperforming in 2023. So after that season, Bergwijn decided to obtain the bag and went to Saudi Arabia, which is where he currently plays today. Pierre-Emile Højbjerg cost us a fairly cheap £15 million fee, joining from Southampton to be the main CDM for Jose, and he was very successful in that role, being one of our best players and starting every game in the Prem in his first season for us. He then continued that form for the next 2 seasons and also continued to be very durable, which is something that basically never happens anymore in our injury-cursed squad. After that though, Ange took charge and it was clear that Højbjerg didn't fit the Australian system as much, so he was thus reduced to a rotational role where he was still dependable but not as important as before. Therefore, he was sold to Marseille for £12 million a season after, where again he's just been a very solid CDM for the past season and a half, and in my opinion he was one of our better signings of the last few years. Joe Rodon was a classic Spurs trying to find a young bargain signing, being bought for 11 million after impressing with Swansea in the Championship. Us fans had wanted a more marquee signing at the time, as we were in for the likes of Milan Skriniar and Ruben Diaz that summer, with Rodon looking like the fallback option on deadline day after we'd once again cheaped out on the top level guys. And the managers agreed with that sentiment, as Rodon was treated as more of a rotational guy, playing very sparingly under both Jose and Conte and just not getting the opportunities he needed as a young player to grow. So after a loan to Rennes in 2022, Rodon was sold to Leeds for £10 million, where back in the Championship he immediately became a key starter again and was one of the best defenders at that level. And after getting more playtime, Rodon has now become a very solid Prem level defender, being a starter for this very exciting Leeds side this season and also being a regular for the Wales national team. Joe Hart was brought in for free just to be a backup goalie and provide some veteran leadership for us after the big man Michel Vorm left the season prior, and he was only here for 1 season where he made 6 appearances in the Europa League before leaving to Celtic in search of more game time. And then at Celtic he was just a great reliable starter, winning 7 trophies in 3 seasons, with some of them being under Ange actually. So it was a good end to his career as he retired in 2024, and as of now he is a pundit for the BBC. Matt Doherty was our first signing of Jose's only summer window, coming in for a cheap £15 million, having been one of the better Prem right backs in the past couple of seasons. However, he struggled to adapt at first as his qualities were more suited to the wingback role he played at Wolves, gradually falling out of the rotation and eventually being completely left out of the matchday squads. He then had a resurgence under Antonio Conte where he played wingback again and looked really good for a couple of months, but that was ended after Matty Cash put in a horror tackle on him, which is why Spurs fans now prey on Cash's downfall every every day. So he then moved to Atletico on a free in a very weird move where he only played 18 minutes before being released after just a half season there, and that led to him re-signing with Wolves, where he finally started playing regularly again. And while this season he hasn't played as much for Wolves side, almost certain to go down, he is 34 now, so he is mostly just a veteran presence nowadays. Carlos Vinícius was loaned in to back up Kane up top after our beloved tree Fernando Llorente left in 2019. He had been extremely productive at Benfica with 24 goals and 13 assists in the previous season, and for us he obviously got less game time but still got 10 goals across the year. 3 of these were against an 8th tier Marine in the FA Cup though, where he famously crossed his arms and stunted on some middle school teachers, so we didn't end up exercising his ridiculous 45 million euro option to buy. And after another loan to PSV, Vinícius moved to Fulham for 4.3 million pounds, where he again just played okay for 3 seasons, being a rotational backup striker, getting 8 goals and 3 assists. But now he's moved back to Brazil, where he is currently playing exceedingly well for Grêmio, as he has 19 goals so far this season for them and is finally back to his old goal scoring form. Gedson Fernandes was Jose's first signing for us, coming in on loan in the winter window, and kind of a bizarre, unexpected move. He was kind of an unknown commodity, and things were suspect because of his agent being George Mendes and Jose being good friends with that dubious individual. So as a 21-year-old without much experience, he only played 14 games for us over the 6 months he was here. Thus, we did not exercise his ridiculous 50 million option to buy. Like, what the hell were these numbers? And thereafter, he was loaned out to Galatasaray in the next season, where he again was only a rotation player. Turkish league rivals Besiktas then decided to buy him permanently, and he actually became a very solid player for them, being a great box-to-box midfielder and winning a couple trophies along the way. And after 3 seasons there, he has just moved to Spartak Moscow, where he is again playing very well, somewhat reaching the potential he had as a youngster at Benfica, but not 50 million, yo. Like, they was trying to finesse, man. But the biggest midfield signing, and probably the biggest signing of Jose's time at Spurs, was Giovani Lo Celso, who was brought in as a long-term successor to Christian Eriksen at camp. We had him on loan in the previous season, but he made his move permanent under Jose for a total of 55 million pounds, expecting him to be the next star playmaker for us. But his first seasons at Spurs were marred by injury, as he never got a consistent run of games without picking up some sort of little knock. However, it seemed like he would just magically become healthy whenever it was time to play for Argentina, so that frustrated us fans infinity. Then he was loaned out to Villarreal for a season and a half, where he played pretty decent but also suffered a severe hamstring injury that kept him out of the World Cup squad, so yeah, the injuries were real for sure. Then after returning to Spurs, he got some more games under Ange, and without the high expectations from before, we started to appreciate him for being a hard-working midfielder with some technical quality at times, but ultimately he didn't live up to his transfer fee, still having more little fitness issues here and there, so he was thus sold back to Betis in 2024 and will probably be more so remembered for his performances in the national team, where he won a couple Copa Americas as a key player in midfield. I'd appreciate if you liked and subscribed if you enjoyed the video, comment below what you want to see next, and thank you so much for all the support so far.